Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Naqib Amsyar bin Abdul Rahim. Today we will discuss about the article that we have discovered the issue. So before that, I will explain a bit about what is fiscal policy. Generally, fiscal policy is defined based on the use of government spending and tax policies that will influence economic conditions, especially macroeconomic conditions. Fiscal policy also involves the government's control of the economy, which include adjusting the size and kind of economy, taxation, public debt, government expenditure and government revenue. Fiscal policy is largely based on the ideas of British economist, which is John Maynard Keynes, the person who argued that economic recession are due to a deficiency in the consumption spending and business investment component of aggregate demand. Keynes argued that modifying government spending and tax policies would aid government in stabilizing the business cycle and regulating economic output to compensate for the effect of the Great Depression. In Keynesian economics theory, the performance and growth of the economy were driven by aggregate demand or spending. Aggregate demand consists of consumer spending, business investment spending, net government spending, and net export. Macroeconomic problem. The issue here is the inflationary gap that occurred due to the COVID-19 crisis. The article mentioned that Malaysia's consumer price index climbed 4.7% year-on-year in April 2021, which is the highest level since 2018. In a statement today, Department of Statistics Malaysia, Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzi Mahidin said the increase in the overall index was driven by the increase in the transport index due to the low base effect from the preceding year. According to Muhammad Uzi, the average price of unleaded petrol RON 95, RON 97 and diesel are also increased in April 2021. Furthermore, due to a supply constraint, high demand and weather unpredictability, the index of food and non-alcoholic beverage jumped 1.9% from a year ago. Despite the fact that the total index rose in April 2021, Muhammad Uzi claimed that the core index, which eliminates the most volatile item of fresh food as well as administered price of goods and service, rose by 0.7%. As we can see here, this is the statistic of inflation rate in Malaysia that causes the inflationary gap. In April, consumer price increased by a seasonally adjusted 0.16% over the previous month, falling short of the 0.33% increase seen in March. The increase of price in April was the smallest since November 2020. Looking at the specific of the announcement, the weaker increase in April was mostly due to decreased transportation price pressure, which more than offset rising food and non-alcoholic beverage expenses. Inflation jumped to 4.7% in April, up from 1.7% in March. The rate of inflation in April was the highest since March 2017. In April, the annual average variation of consumer price was minus 0.6%, up from minus 1.2% in March. Focus Economic Consensus Forecast panelists expect inflation to average 2.2% in 2021, which is up 0.1 percentage point from last month's forecast and 1.9% in 2022. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Amir Fahmi bin Muhammad Arif, and today I would like to talk about the issues of expansionary policy amidst the COVID-19 in Malaysia. During the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, Malaysia has been enduring deflation, and as a result of shrinking demand of consumer and low retail pump prices. Not only has the COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc on global health, but it has also wreaked devastation on the global economy. The pandemic's instability and other frustrations push governments to implement countrywide lockdowns. For the first time since 1980s recession, the economy has experienced negative growth. Other than that, according to the Ministry of Finance Fiscal Outlook 2021 report, the federal government has revised upwards its 2020 total expenditure allocation to RM 314.7 billion from the initial budget estimate of RM297 billion due to the prolonged COVID-19 pandemic crisis, necessitating the government to implement an extensive expansionary fiscal stance. The net rise of RM17.7 billion in total spending allocation comes from an RM38 billion fiscal stimulus infusion and RM20.3 billion in savings from expenditure, according to the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance said these savings are generated from reviewing existing programs and projects, as well as the shortfall in spending due to savings in expenditure and delayed progress in the implementation of projects during the Movement Control Order (MCO) period. The global COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Minister of Finance, has compelled most governments to implement counter-cyclical measures to mitigate the crisis impact. As the COVID-19 crisis continues to impact on tourism, supply chains and household spendings, with a 3.1% increase, the services sector remained the key difference in Q4 2019 with 6.2%. Information and communication, wholesale and retail trade, and finance and insurance subsectors all helped the services sector perform well. Because of the concept of working from home during the MCO, the information and communication on subsector was led by the telecommunications segment. Manufacturing grew at a slower rate of 1.5% compared to 3.0% in the preceding quarter. This is the slowest rate of growth since the first quarter of 2013, which is 0.6%. Petroleum, chemical, rubber and plastic product in the first quarter of 2020 with 3.9%. Electrical, electronic and optical product in the first quarter of 2020 with 2.2%. And wood goods, furniture, paper products and printing in the first quarter of 2020 with 1.3%. All contributed to the increase. Oil palm, forestry and logging, fishing and rubber all suffered declines in the agriculture sector due to a decrease in the crude palm oil production. The oil palm subsector fell by 22% in the fourth quarter in 2019, which is negative 16.9%.
Hi and Assalamualaikum to our lecturer Dr. Hainur Akma. My name is Anaz Dzulhakim bin Bahashaim. My student ID number is 2019403116. As for one part of this presentation, I will be presenting about the solutions for the issues just now. Based on the issue 2.1, it is possible for the federal government to use contractionary fiscal policy as it is used for slowing down the economy. By using this policy to remove the inflation, the government can use two ways to decrease the aggregate demand directly or indirectly. The direct way is when the government will reduce the government spending for demand of goods and services, or indirectly by increasing the taxation levels so that consumers have less purchasing power, thus indirectly decrease the aggregate demand curve in the country. For the issue 2.2, when the economy is in economic recession, the expansionary fiscal policy will be used to restore economic activities. Expansionary fiscal policy aims to boost the economy and is often used during economic downturn by increasing the government spending and reducing taxes. For the purpose of restoring the economic recession faced by Malaysia during this pandemic, Malaysia's government has brought to light the economic stimulus package, Perhatian Package, Additional Perhatian Package, National Economic Recovery Plan and Kita Perhatian Package worth 20 billions, 30 billions, 10 billions, 35 billions and 10 billion ringgit respectively to cope with COVID-19 impact. The purpose why the government spending this lots of money is because to take care of society's welfare during this pandemic and also to increase society's purchasing power to demands for goods and services, thus stimulating economic activities. Not to forget, the government also giving out lots of subsidies and incentives to society such as wage subsidy program and childcare subsidy worth 5.3 billion and 0.2 billion ringgit each. It is also included that the tax relief provisions in the economic stimulus package to weather the effects of COVID-19, such as delaying the payments of tax installments by taxpayers in the tourism sector. For our solution from students' perspective, during this COVID-19 pandemic, government should prioritize vaccination for workers who are considered as frontliners. Having to lose our frontliners, our academic activities will begin to shatter and put us into academic catastrophe, since there will be no medical professional nor the ones who safeguard our peace. Supplying vaccines to them will help their lines of work much properly and helping the society to regain their feet back on the track. Not forget to mention, the government should also spend more their expenditures toward health and medical care departments. With better medical equipments and health centers will increase the productivity of health workers. The more and faster the infected people recover, the more it will help to maintain the market equilibrium of our country. Last but not least, the government needs to offer more working opportunity to lower the rates of unemployment, such as making workshops of skills improvement so they will have higher chances to get hired, or convincing employers to hire more workers by creating lots of projects opportunity. Eventually, higher society's purchasing power and lots of future investors exist, hence resulting economic growth. That's it from me and all of us. Thank you so much for listening our presentation. Goodbye and have a nice day.